Welcome back to a new video, and on this occasion is the Arturia MINIFREAK. Everything on this guide is in chapters. If you look at the description or the timeline, you can jump to a section or skip the ones you don't want. If you like this, please like and subscribe. This channel is supported by viewers only. If you want to buy me a coffee to say thanks and help the channel keep going on, you can. You have links at the description for PayPal, YouTube thanks, and Patreon. In this video, I will cover everything about the synthesizer, but not the ARP and the sequencer and some other extra functions. And it's because the ARP and the sequencer is just pretty massive. It can do a lot. But I've recorded a dedicated video just deep diving into the ARP and the sequencer alone. So please check the links at the description or the cards at the top. And if the videos are not there, it's because they were not yet released. Right, so we need to cover a lot of ground. So the first thing I want to get out of the way is how to navigate and use the presets. You need to use this encoder to scroll and find different presets. And as you can see the preset number, the name of the patch, and at the bottom you have the category of the preset. Now, whenever you want to load something, you just find it and then you push to load, and there you go. You just load the preset. I'm gonna load a different one. Now, scrolling can be a little bit annoying because you have 512 presets. Now, the thing is that on this one, if you hold shift, of course it's off camera, but I'm going to hold it right now. I'm holding the shift. You can move this controller, this knob, and it will give you the categories. This is the preset filter. So I'm holding and moving, and now it will give you different categories. The first one is all, which is going to be all the 512 presets. But then, of course, since you save them in categories, you can maybe load just the basses. If I go to bass, and it will only give me the bass presets, right? So that's actually pretty cool. So when you create a preset, you need to add a category just to navigate this a little bit easier. If you go all the way to the beginning, it's going to be all, which is going to be all presets. If you are working, I'm going to select that one. If you're just, maybe working on a preset and you change something about the preset, it will show right there on the screen when it just goes back. Right here, you can see that you have a tiny little symbol. That's an asterisk, meaning that you changed the preset, but you never saved it. If you made a change on a preset and you want to store the changes, you need to press the save button. When you press it, it will ask you where do you want to save it. And right here, you just need to choose. If you just want to, like update the preset, well, you don't need to put it on a different location. You just can press save and it will save the preset. We don't have that symbol anymore. If I again change it, if I choose to save it, I can maybe save the preset on a different place. I'm going to go all the way to the back where we have empty presets. We have empty slots. So we have an init preset. So when you save it on an init preset, you can press push and it will just ask you for the category. You need to select the category. Let's say I'm creating some paths. Let's say I'm going to push to go to the next screen. And right here is the renaming screen. So with the encoder, you can turn to change the characters, which is, again, pretty simple. If you push, it's going to go to the next character. If you push and keep pushing and you move it, you can, choose different positions, which is, again, super cool. Another thing that you can do if you locked into a character, I'm going to go to the first one. Again, pushing the shift and keep it pushed. When you move this controller, when you move the encoder, is going to let you select the, it's going to sweep the character list. You have the symbols. You can go to capitals, small, and numbers, lowercase, and then uppercase. Once you are done, and I'm going to leave it like that. Once you're done, you just need to press save, and there you go. That's how you save the patch. Another thing that you can do, you have 64 slots to save favorites. I'm going to be loading whatever preset. It doesn't matter, just whatever. Again, just doesn't matter. And I'm going to go to shift. When I hold the shift, what I need to do, I need to go to save. And it will not save anything. It will enter into favorites mode. This is going to go light blue and this white. So now you can use all the sequencer slots to store the 64 favorite preset slots. And right here, again, just like the sequencer, but we will talk about this in a different video, you can select the different slots where you can store the presets. And right here it says 16, 32, 48, and 64. So if I'm standing on the page number 1, I can store 16 favorites and so on and on and on. I need to press the save, just hold it, and I need to press the slot where I want to save it. Once you do so, there you go, that preset is saved as a favorite right there. I'm gonna get out, you can press the sound edit, we'll go to a different, the main mode, the home. I'm gonna load a different preset, it doesn't really matter. And now I'm gonna go shift again, I'm gonna go to save, and now I want to allocate that preset there. I'm gonna hold save, and now my preset, my favorite 2 is going to be that preset. So later, if you want to load it, the only thing that you need to do is, again, go to shift and save to enter into the favorites, and then just press to load whatever preset is that you have on your favorites. If you want to delete a favorite, right here, the sequence button at the bottom, it says erase. You just press and you hold it, and you just need to tap the preset that you want to remove. It will, of course, remove the favorite slot and not the preset. Alright, so the oscillators are just awesome, and you get 2 oscillators. But they are not traditional oscillators that you can find on a classic synthesizer, and if you own a MINIFREAK, you already know most of them. So I'm using a default patch. If I play something, it's going to sound super dull. So to change the oscillators, to change between the 1 and the 2, you just need to press it. And when you press it, you're going to be on 2 or you're going to be on 1. Each oscillator has different oscillators inside, and you can change this with the type. I'm loading the 1, and if I move this, notice that you have a lot of different types. And you have, again, you have lots. And each oscillator has different properties. All the properties, you can manage them by changing the wave. And you can see that this one, instead of wave, is going to be morph. So this is the same for all the oscillators. They have different names. You use this 3 knobs, and sometimes it's gonna, it's gonna mean wave, but sometimes it's gonna be something else like morph in this case. This one we have the timbre, and then we have the shape. So by using these 3 different knobs, you are gonna be changing the sound of the oscillator. One thing I cannot do on this video is to cover all the oscillators one by one. That would be crazy because you have way too many, and they are all really different. It would take us at the very least 1 hour to go through each oscillator and use the wave, timbre, and shape. So if you want to learn what each oscillator can do and how it works, check the links at the description or the cards. If the video is not there, it's because it was not yet released. And I guess I will upload it in a couple of days. So okay, so when you are on an oscillator, you change the type, you select whatever type, it doesn't matter. And then, of course, you change your timbre, wave, and shape, and then right here you have the volume, and right here is the icon of the volume. It's super small. You can almost not see it on the screen. It's not getting it, because the screen is just very small. But right here you can change the volume for each oscillator. Now then it's going to be the tuning. If I go to the tune and the oct, this one is going to be changing by semitones. Which, I guess it makes sense. We can go all the way up to very high. And then if I go down, we can go really low. Right? So that's something that, we can do. If I hold the shift and I go to the tune, instead of changing by semitones, we are going to be changing by octaves. Which is, of course, something usually super useful. If you push the encoder, the tune, notice that right here the light goes on and it says fine. So now what we can do, we can fine tune the oscillator. You can go in sense. And if you want to go back again to semitones, you just need to push it. Now, sometimes you're going to be working with an oscillator. I'm going to go maybe to, I don't know, the basic waves. If I maybe change this one, the morph, I'm going to be getting some values, and then maybe I change this, and, we have a different sound. So then the screen will go out. And I want to see what are the values that I have for wave, timbre, and shape. If I move this, since these are encoders, it will show me the screen again, but it will change the value that I had from before. So how can I, see the values without changing them? What you can do, you can go to the select of the, of the oscillator. You press in the long press, just press and hold and it will show you that screen. All right, so I'm going to do it again. There you go. Then you have, of course, your oscillator 2, and right here is just completely the same. The tune and the type will select the different type, and the wave, timbre, and the volume, they work exactly the same. Tiny little trick: if you are using the oscillator 1 and the oscillator 2 at the same time, what you can do, you can go to the shift. I'm gonna press and hold, and when you use the volume, now it's gonna give you a mix. And this is, a blend between the 1 and the 2. If you go up on the 1, it's gonna go down on the 2. If you go up on the 2, it's gonna go down on the 1. It's just a mixer. Still, you can go into the oscillator and just change the volume manually. But if you want to blend them, you can hold the shift again. Just change the volume for each. Okay, so that's the oscillator 1 and the oscillator 2. They look very simple because you only have 3 different knobs, but they can do a lot. But right here, since you now have 2 oscillators, this is the main difference between the MINIFREAK, there are some things that you really need to know. Now, since you get a lot of oscillator types, some of them are just exclusive to the oscillator number 1. You can only use them on the 1, like the audio in and the wave table. But then you have the same thing on the oscillator 2. Some other types are just exclusive to the oscillator number 2. Now then, on the oscillator 2, you have a third category. You have the audio processor types. So now we need to talk about the audio processor types. And this is something that you can only do on the oscillator number 2. If I go to the number 2 and I move the type, you need to go all the way down, and I'm starting with an initial patch. I'm going to go all the way down, and at some point you're going to find something that says multi-filter, then surgeon filter, and then comp, and then phaser, and lastly it's going to be the destroy. And for now I'm just going to stay on the multi-filter. So with the oscillator 2 is using an audio processor type, the whole signal path is going to change. The oscillator number 1 will generate a sound, but the number 2 is going to do something else. The oscillator 1 will flow into the number 2, and then the number 2 is going to again move forward and go to the analog filter and the envelopes and everything else. So you're pretty much turning the oscillator 2 to something else, right? So to a filter or an effects. And maybe you didn't notice, when you are using an audio processor type, the light of the number 2 goes blue or light blue, and the other one is just white. Another thing is that when you're using an audio processor type, the volume, it's not going to be a volume anymore, because now you're using a processor. So it's a type of effects. So you get a dry and a wet, and you don't get a volume. So what do you get this? Because the analog filter, it's fine. You can get the job done. But, you cannot really go wild. You don't have a million types of different filters and, different combinations. It's an analog filter. So instead of using the analog filter, which is a little bit limited, you can use the oscillator 2 to use different types of filters and get different types of tones. So this will expand the amount of things that you can do with the synthesizer. So let's just give it a go. I'm again going to the multi-filter, and on the number 1 I'm using just basic waves. Notice that we are not doing anything. So the multi-filter, when you move it, you have different options. You have a low-pass filter with 36 dB per octave, which is pretty aggressive. And then you have a low-pass, different types of low-passes. And then you have a high-pass, keep moving forward. You have a band-pass, and at the end, you have a notch. So you have a lot of different types. And again, just like a filter, you will be getting your cutoff, which again, you cut off frequencies, and then you have your resonance. And for other types, it's going to be pretty much the same, but with, less dB per octave, less poles, less, and then at some point, you're going to find the high pass. And again, you just need to adjust the values. And again, just by using this, you have a lot of different, you can create a lot of different sounds, because you have a lot more diversity, let's say. I'm going to go to band pass, and then, you have the notch right here, which is going to be very reactive to the resonance control. All right, so again, a lot of different, a lot of power, if you ask me. And on top of that, you can use the dry and the wet, so you can do just a tiny little bit, and then at the end, use the analog filter to do something else and create different sounds. Another thing that you get with the analog filters, in the case of the low pass, is that the resonance is a little bit more aggressive than the analog filter. It just has a different sound. So if you think about this, you could create a different signal path. For example, if you want to recreate create a sound like you would on an MS-20, where you have a low pass, a high pass first, and then a low pass, you can with this. You can go here, just select the high pass, and then on this one you're going to be doing your low pass, and you can kind of recreate that sound. So this is one of the processor types. Then you have a little bit more. You have the surgeon filter, and this one it's a filter, but it's a little bit different. It's more suited to cut frequencies or emphasize other frequencies. If I go here, notice that it's going to be a lot more aggressive, and I'm going to go all the way wet. It's super aggressive. You have a lot of other types. You have low pass, band pass. It's pretty much the same thing. But again, is just a lot more aggressive, as you can see. All right, so the other ones, and these ones are the filters, the multi-filter and the Sargent. The other ones, the comb, these are more effects. So if I go up and just move this, notice that this will give you that comb type of effects. I'm gonna go less damping. All of this again is just to create different tones. Notice how the tone is changing. And here I could go maybe to the cutoff and just, create a different sound. If I go all the way down, it sounds completely different. The other one, the phase filter, this one is more like I'm gonna go all the way wet. It's gonna be like a phase filter, a phaser. That's I guess the whole purpose. And it's not a filter. If I press and just keep it like that, and I move this, notice it sounds like a filter, a phaser. It gives you that effect. So if you ask me, the comb and the phaser, they're just more suited to create different tones than to do a classic filtering. And then you get the last one, which is the destroy. And this one is completely different. This is a full-blown effects. You have a fold. Wave folding, you have a decimator, and the other one is going to be a bit crusher. And you can use a combination of all three and just get super crush sounds. And of course you can modulate all these controls and get interesting sounds. That's the whole point. All right, so then you have your default filter, which is going to be, like it says right here, an analog filter. It's not a digital filter. And this one is a classic all-around smooth-sounding analog filter. All right, so if I play something, you can cut off the frequencies. Notice that right here you have your types. You can do a low pass, which is, you're going to be cutting high frequencies. And then you have your resonance, which is the peak at the breakpoint. This one is not as resonant as the multi-filter. And it sounds a lot more smooth. Alright, so I guess that's fine. And then you have your other types, which is going to be the band pass filter. You can see that there on the spectrum. And then you have your high pass, which is you're going to be cutting lows. Alright, so that's it. This is what you get on the filter. I'm going to be doing something like that, and I'm going to be putting the resonance right here, because now we need to talk about this. So this one is the control of how much we can modulate the cutoff with whatever is that we do on an envelope. That's why it says envelope. And right here you have it has the latch. You have a latch right there. You can see the icon. So when you go to the center, it's going to latch at 0. So it means that you can modulate into negatives or you can modulate into positives. By default, this is going to use the default envelope, the only ADSR that you get on the synthesizer. Now, some synthesizers have a dedicated envelope to modulate the cutoff. On this one, you don't. You have one single envelope that will control the modulation of the cutoff and the amp. If I provide some information right here, I do something, I'm gonna be cutting some frequencies. And we can hear and see that motion of the cutoff. If I make it slower. Alright, so again, just a pretty basic standard type of modulation. You use your envelope to modulate the cutoff. Now, I know that this might be your first synthesizer, and maybe you don't know how an ADSR works. In a minute, I will give you an ADSR 101. So another very common thing that you get with the filter is to have the cutoff react a little bit different to the velocity, when you play a key, or to do key tracking. I'm going to be doing a little bit of cutoff, I'm going to be doing a little bit of resonance, and I'm going to maybe go right here. So now my envelope is going to do some kind of modulation, and we can hear it doing it, of course. Now if I press soft, it's going to be the same modulation. If I press hard, it's just, the same modulation. Soft, hard. So right here, it says velo. So it means that the velocity of your keys can affect how much modulation you're doing on your cutoff. And to adjust this, you need to go to shift, you need to press and hold, and you need to use this control. If you go all the way down, it's 0. But then if I go all the way down, up, it is going to be like, 100, I guess. And I'm going to go really aggressively so we can really hear how this works. I'm going to go to 100 and I'm going to release it. So if I press soft, notice that the effect is just very mild. Almost nothing. But if I press hard, we get the full modulation. So this is again one of the things that you can do right out of the gate on this synthesizer. Now, I'm going to do shift and go all the way down. I'm going to disable the cutoff to the velocity to the cutoff. Another thing that is very common is to do key tracking, which means, and this is something, again, you get it's a standard control on most synthesizers. If I play a higher key and I'm cutting a lot of, and I'm going to do no modulation. If I play a key plus press a key, a higher key, notice that we see something, we can hear something, but I'm cutting a lot of frequencies. So we cannot hear a lot of what's going on the higher frequencies. If I play low keys, we can still hear them, but again, we are cutting a lot. So the keyboard control, the key tracking, if you don't know what it is, we can set the cutoff to listen to the keys that we play. And if I play higher keys, the cutoff will open a little bit more so we can hear the higher keys. And if it's lower keys, it's going to open a little bit less, so we can hear the lower frequencies. And on this synthesizer, you don't have a knob or a button to do this, just like we did with the velocity. You need to do it through the matrix. On the matrix, you have the source and you have the destination. Again, we're gonna talk about this. And you can see at the top it says cutoff. So, and then at the bottom it says keyboard. So when it says keyboard, it means whatever key that we play, the keyboard. So I'm gonna move the matrix all the way to match keyboard and the cutoff. Once you are there, you just need to push the matrix and it's gonna go steady. Now on your screen, if you move it, it's gonna say right there, maybe the camera is just not so generous, it's gonna say keep for keyboard and then cutoff. And I'm gonna go all the way aggressive, go all the way up so we can really hear the difference. If I play a higher key now, notice that we can hear a lot more. If I play a lower key, you hear a little bit less. But we can hear the higher frequencies. If I go to the mod matrix, and we're gonna learn how to do this, I'm gonna get out of here. If I go here and just delete, notice that this is how the higher key sounds. And if I just delete that, the keyboard tracking, notice that it's a lot darker. So this is the way we set up, key tracking on this synthesizer. Now, if you didn't get it, don't worry. We're gonna talk about the mod matrix a lot more. If you already know how an ADSR works, you can move on because I will not teach you anything new. If you're a beginner and you're starting and maybe, again, this is your first synthesizer and you're a little bit confused, I'm going to show you how an ADSR works. Alright, so I'm going to be loading a default patch and I'm going to go to the attack, decay, sustain, and release all the way down. The filter, again, right now is just going to be all the way open, all the way closed, and no cutoff modulation. So if I play a key, notice that nothing happens. We just get a tiny little blip. And it is because all of this is just super short and super close. In the case of the envelope, this controls how, of course, the cutoff is going to modulate, but also how the volume of the synthesizer goes out. The oscillators will generate a sound. It will go through the filter, but then the sound needs to go out. So how it goes out is going to be controlled by this. You have the attack, which is going to be a time-based knob. The decay is a time-based knob. The sustain is a level. And then the release is just like the attack and decay. It's ruled by time. If I play a key, notice that nothing happens. So the attack is going to be how long the sound is going to go up in amplitude. And then when it reaches the maximum point, it's going to die. So if I do provide a little bit of attack and I play a key and I'm going to be holding it, notice that the sound goes up and I'm still holding the key. And at some point it dies. So it goes up. And if I do less, it's going to be super short. But it's just, again, super short. If I do a slow attack, go up on this one, and now I play a key in 3, 2, 1, the sound will slowly go up. It will reach maximum amplitude. And then, at some point, it's just going to die. So, there we go. Now it dies. And I'm still holding the key. So we can assume again that the attack is the how long will the sound, how long it will take to go from full silence to full amplitude. Now then, of course, since the sound goes up and at some point it's just dying, then we have the decay. And the decay is the same thing than the attack. It's going to decide how long something is going to happen. And the decay is how long it will take for the sound to go from full amplitude to silence. How is going to smoothly go down, right? And notice I'm still holding the key, but now it's not dying instantly. It's just slowly going down. I press it, slow attack, and then slowly decaying down. Now I'm going to make it faster because it's, way too slow. Goes up, enters the decay, and smoothly goes down. So then I'm still holding the key. So we are entering into a sustain stage, and this is going to be the sustain. Now the sustain is not a time. It doesn't, it will not decide how long something will take. It will just keep the sound at a level. Notice that I'm still holding the key, and when I move this control, it's going up and down in volume. And it's because when the decay goes down, the sustain can't decide where the sound stays when I'm holding a key. Because maybe I want for the sound to slowly go up, slowly go down, but not die. I want it to stay at some point in between. So I'm going to play it in 3, 2, 1, goes up, enters the decay, and then it's going to sustain at whatever value we provide right here. Now I'm going to maybe sustain it a little bit higher. So now, what happens when I release a key? I'm going to release it in 3, 2, 1. The sound will die instantly. And this is going to be the release. It's just like the attack and the decay. When we release a key, how long will it take for the sound to really die? If it's going to die instantly or it's going to die smoothly. If I go up, and I'm going to go up on the sustain for now. I'm going to go up on the release. I'm going to press it. It's going to go all the way up. It's going to sustain somewhere at the top. And I'm going to release it in 3, 2, 1. And now the sound is just not dying instantly. It's taking, a little bit more time. It's dying smoothly, not super fast. If I do it fast, it's going to go up. I release it, and it dies instantly. And understanding how this works, it's fundamental because it's how you create a sound. If I go all the way down to the attack, provide a little bit of decay, no sustain, and a little bit of release, or maybe no release, I have kind of a lead. If I provide more release and maybe a little bit of sustain and, more decay and a little bit of attack, I have synth keys. And if I provide a little bit more attack, more decay, and just, a little bit more of everything, I have kind of like a pad. Right? So understanding how an ADSR on an envelope work, it's just fundamental. Especially, again, because this envelope is the one in charge to modulate the cutoff. So if you're doing some cutoff modulation, the cutoff will do whatever you specify right here. Notice all the different sounds I'm getting just by doing the same thing. If I want something super plucky, maybe I need to go down on this, and then we get a type of a plucky type of sound. Right, so besides your classic ADSR that you get right here, you have a lot more functions. Now, you have a button right here that says mode. This is about the polyphony and the different voicing modes that you get on the synthesizer. Now, this, of course, the envelopes are really related to this, but this is a separate topic. I will show you how all the different voicing modes work in a minute. Now, when you go to sound edit, if I go there, you can have a lot of options, and I mean a lot of options. You need to go to the one that says envelope. So when you go there, you push to enter, and you have a lot of different options. I'm gonna show you what they mean. Notice that right here you have something that says attack curve and decay curve. So by default, and release curve, of course. So by default, of course, the decay, the attack, and the release, they have the default curve. But you can enter and change from default, and you only have two different profiles, to quick. So now the curve of the attack is going to be much quicker. So if you want the pluckier type of sound, you can change it from here. Same with the decay. If I go to the decay, just push to enter. I change it to percussive. I need to push to confirm that it says the current, it's default. I'm going to need to push. So now the decay, it's not going to be long. It's going to be super short. So if you want to create a pluck or something, a percussive type of sound, you know, this is a good option, because just maybe going to the decay knob and going all the way down is just not going to cut it. Yeah, I'm going to, for now, keep it on default. Then you have the release curve, and it's the same idea. It's going to be a very long release, but if you want to make it more percussive, you can change it if you want to. All right, so I'm going to go and leave everything at default. All right, so then you have more. Amazingly, this synthesizer can do a lot. You have a lot of configurations. You have the velo to VCA, the velo to VCF, the velo to envelope, and the velo to time. So if I go to the VCA, this one is going to be absolutely nothing. So this is talking about the amplitude, how the velocity will affect the volume that code comes out. So now I'm going to go really aggressive. I'm going to confirm that value. If I press really softly, the sound is just super quiet. And I'm going to make sure that, you know, everything's just open and we are not doing anything. And the, again, envelopes are completely open. So now if I just play a key very softly, it's going to be super quiet. But if I press hard, it's super loud. So again, it's just velocity, how it will affect the amp. By default, on a default patch, is just nothing, but you know, you can change it. Then you have the VCF. How much will, you know, affect the VCF? I'm going to go all the way up, and I'm going to be doing some cut of frequencies. So now if I play hard, it's going to affect the VCF, but if I play soft, it's just, you know, not even moving. Hard, super soft. Now then you have the velo to envelope, and this is the same than VCA and VCF. The only difference is that it's just both at the same time. So if you want to control the amplitude and VCF, or affect the amplitude and the VCF, the cutoff at the same time with the velocity, well then you don't need to set them separately. You can go to env and just set it up from there. If you enter a menu you want to get out, just tapping the sound edit will take you out. And then you have the time. This one is super cool. So if you go all the way up, I'm gonna go to 100. This will offset, or let's say scale, the decay, and it will scale the release. So if I have something, you know, something, let's say short, whatever you do with velocity will affect the release. And if I play soft, notice that the release is short. If I play hard, it's longer. So the velocity will affect the decay and the release time. Now, then you have more. It's going to be the re-trigger mode. And on this one, I'm going to need to explain a little bit more. I'm going to go to re-trigger mode. You have different values. You have envelope, continue, and then if I go all the way down, you have envelope reset. Now, right here, we are on poly mode. I was using a default patch, but I'm going to be showing you on mono because it's just going to be much easier to explain. I'm going to go to the envelopes and just change this and go to the cutoff all the way open and no modulation. I'm going to go again to the attack. I'm going to do something around 45, which is again super slow. Then maybe again 50 on the decay. I'm gonna do a little bit less sustain, and I'm gonna go up aggressively on the release. Now this is a very weird shape. Now envelope continue, which is the first option, means that I'm gonna make a slower release, a slower attack. It means that when we play a key, I'm gonna press and hold, the envelope, the single envelope in this case, because we are mono, will not re-trigger, and it will try to continue from where the last note is at that point in time. So if I play a key now, I'm gonna play it, it's gonna slowly go up. So when I play a new key while I'm holding this one, it's not gonna restart it. It's gonna continue from that from where that envelope is. So I'm gonna play it and then play a new key. Notice it's not restarting the envelope, and you can see it right there on the spectrum. It's like not going up and down again. Oh, there we go. You know what? I'm gonna do less release. So the envelope will always try to continue and reuse the times, pretty much. Now, what's with the other option? If I go here and I select the envelope reset, now, the opposite will happen. Will mean that the envelope will reset when we play a new key. So if I play it, notice it's completely different now. I play a new key while I'm holding this one, and it always restarts from 0. So we can hear that drop in volume because the envelope is restarting. Alright, so hopefully you understood this. The default mode is going to be envelope continue. Alright, so why am I showing you all of this? And it's because you have a lot of different polyphony modes. And all the polyphony modes are really different. And inside each mode, you have more options. So knowing all these tiny little details for the envelopes will really help you. Especially, of course, when you're creating patches. If you're using slow times, maybe envelope continue is going to give you a more smoother transition when you play new keys. But then if you're creating a bass patch, maybe an envelope reset is just a little bit better for that type of sound. All right, so let's talk about the different polyphony modes. All right, so I'm starting with default patch, and when you do so, you are going to be using the poly mode. So right from the start, you have 6 voices available. This is what the synthesizer can do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If I do more, it's going to fail to do so. It's going to steal one of the voices. You can only do 6. Now, when you are in mono mode, I'm going to go right now to mono, you can only play one single key at a time. It's just mono. If I play a new one, it will kind of delete this one. And you can, again, do only one single voice at a time. That's why it's called mono. Now then we have the paraphonic, which is going to be the third one. And this one I'm gonna explain in a minute. And please do not skip that section because it's really, really cool. It's a lot more complicated, but yeah, it's just paraphony. But on this synthesizer paraphony, it's super special, like on the MINIFREAK. And then if you keep tapping, you go into unison. Notice that the other one goes on, the mono, but also the uni. But it's going to be mainly unison. I'm going to explain why you have mono as well. But this is just unison is going to stack the voices, all the voices, or just some of the voices to get a huge type of sound. All right, so whenever you select one of the different voices, you have more configuration options. Now, all right, so most of the configuration options are going to be for paraphony and then the unison. First, I'm going to start with unison. So just pressing the buttons. So we are on unison. So when you are in unison, you press a key, you get that sweet unison. If you go to sound edit, you have a lot of different options. When you go to the sound edit and you go to the one that says voice. So I'm gonna go to voice, and you have the uni spread, the uni count, the uni mode. So these ones are for unison. So first, it's gonna be the spread. So if I play a key, changes this value, we'll take the 6 voices that you're stacking, and take it from a little bit detuned to the beehive territory. Right, so, and you can go really crazy. I mean, Really crazy. Or you can go, to tiny little amounts if you want to create a bass, maybe. Aggressive bass, you get it. Alright, so by default, and I'm gonna maybe... You know what? I'm gonna leave it in default. I'm gonna get out. Then you have more options like the count and the mode. Now, if I go to the count, notice it says 6. And it's because by default, when you enter into unison, it's going to grab all the voices that you have available and it will stack them. But if you want, you can maybe do 2 voices. And if I do so and I play so, now it's going to stack only 2 voices. So when you lower the count on unison, the amount of voices that you're stacking, it doesn't mean that you can play more keys. You can, but if you're mono on unison and mono, you cannot do it. So I'm stacking 2. I'm gonna play a key. It's just doing it. I'm gonna go to a new key, and notice that it's gonna dispose this one. I'm gonna go lower and then higher, and now it's just more obvious. So we cannot play more keys when you're in unison and mono. And that's why you have the unison modes. If I go to unison mode and I enter, notice that the first mode is going to be unison. Then you have other, modes, the para uni and the poly uni. So the unison is going to be the default mono. One key and, you stack all the voices that you want. Then you have the poly, and I'm going to select that one. And I'm going to go back to the unison count, and I'm going to do 6. Alright, so with uni-poly, since now we have 6 voices, I play a key, and we have 6 voices on this key. If I play a new key, now notice that we have 2. So we can just play a chord and use unison. But what it will do, it will just divide the voices that you have available. Since we have key 6, now it's going to be 3 on this one, 3 on this one. I can play a new key and just, make a triad, and we have 2, 2, and 2. If I play a 4th key, we just don't have the, more voices, so we cannot really do it. So that's how, what you can do. 6, 3, and then, the full 6. But, you can do a chord or create a triad, play a triad with unison. Alright, so then you have the other mode, which is going to be the uni and para for paraphonic. So I'm going to use that one. This one is pretty simple. I'm going to play 1 key. We get that sweet unison. I'm going to play 2 keys. We still get, the unison. Now, if I play a new key, it will steal the lowest. It's going to steal that one. I'm going to do it again. 1 unison, 2 unison, 3, and it's stealing this one. So I'm going to be going to the unison count, and I'm going to be choosing 3 different, I'm going to use 3 voices. So I'm going to do 3, and I'm still on the uni para. You can see it right here. So if I do 1, it works. 2, it works. 3, it works. 4, it works. So why is it working? Well, it's because, since we are only stacking 3 per key, we have more voices available. So, the paraphonic mode can do it because, again, we have more voices. Now, the paraphonic mode, it's really wild. So let's talk about the paraphonic mode. All right, so I'm going to be selecting the para mode. Now, the paraphonic mode on the MINIFREAK is just like the one that you get on the MicroFreak. I'm going to go to the oscillators and select the number 2, or just tap it, and it's going to say Polyphony on oscillator 2 is not available. So when you're on the paraphonic mode, you can only use 1 single oscillator. What is the benefit of doing all of this? The benefit is that now you can play 12 voices, right? So it's going to double the amount of voices that you can play, the amount of keys. And it's using the same method than the MicroFreak it's using. So now the oscillator 2 will do the same thing that the only oscillator that you can do, you can use. And again, you can play 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I'm going to do 7. Now you can play a lot up to 12 different voices. Now, this is how the MicroFreak works. In reality, you're not playing 12 voices. So what it does is that it's going to use the oscillator 1, the oscillator 2, and it's going to, organize all the voice in pairs. And in this mode, each voice pair has a hidden envelope that we don't see, trying to mimic whatever we have right here. And it's, pretty smart. And again, since now it's being duplicated with the oscillators, you have, the double amount of voices. But you're not really getting 12 different voices completely. It really sounds like, having 12 voices. It depends on what you play or what you're trying to do. You do have some limitations. And it's just, again, like the MINIFREAK, where you have 4 voices and it's a mono paraphonic. But when you play it, sometimes you don't feel like it's a monophonic or paraphonic type of synthesizer. But yeah, in paraphonic mode, the benefit is like, you have more voices, but also at the same time, you lose an oscillator. So you have less sound design capabilities, let's say. And also, since it's trying to mimic all of this, you do have some limitations when you go wild with the envelope. And one more thing, especially when you're working with mono, this is actually a mono type of deal. I'm going to go to Sound Edit. And when you go to the voices, if you wanted to know where the legato on and off is, well, this is where you can find it. You find it under the voices, the voice, and then the legato mode. So right here, you can enable, toggle the legato on and off. You have a couple more options. I'm not going to really show you, but, this is where you find them. You have the poly allocation, which is how the voices get allocated. And then you have the poly still mode. So when you play keys, if you play, more than 6 keys at the same time, it will steal voices. So how it will steal the voices? Well, you can decide it right here. So none, it means that it will not play it. But if not, it's going to be the lowest in velocity or the oldest. All right, so we are done with the different modes, and notice how much ground we just covered with the oscillators, the filters, the different modes you get right here, the envelope. This synthesizer, it's really, really deep, and we didn't cover the effects or the envelope or the LFOs, and now we need to talk about the matrix. So the synthesizer is pretty good. How this works is that at the left you have your sources, the envelope, the LFOs, the velocity, aftertouch, your mod wheel, and then your keyboard. And then at the top you have your destinations, what you can modulate. And by default you have 4 fixed or hard-coded slots, which is the timbre of the 1, the wave of the 1, the pitch of the 1 and 2, and then the cutoff. So if you think about this, how this works is the who will modulate what at the top. To use it, you need to move the matrix knob, and as you keep scrolling, you just need to select the who will modulate what. If I want LFO1 to modulate the cutoff, I'm going to be scrolling all the way there. If I want to use the LFO1 to modulate the pitch, is LFO and then pitch, and then so on and on and on. So you can go horizontally, just like this, by using the matrix, but if you hold shift, you can go vertically. All right, so that's a cool trick. Like I said before, the first 4 are just non-changeable destinations, and the rest are just custom assignable. It's okay, so let me just show you, give you an example how this works. Let's say that I want to use the LFO number 1 to modulate the pitch of the 1 and 2. So I'm going to go there, LFO 1, pitch 1 and 2. If you want to set how much the LFO will modulate pitch 1 and 2, you need to push the matrix button. And notice it says amount. It's going to light up. And the light of the slot is going to be steady. So now when you move the matrix button, it will let you know how much you can affect with the LFO, the pitch. Right, so you have the source and the destination and how much it will modulate. If I go up, of course it's going to go up, but you can go into negatives. All depends on what is modulating what. So if I go up, I'm going to go all the way up and just press a key. Notice that we can hear that pitch modulation. All right, so that's how it works. And one thing that you need to know or make sure is that when the center is highlighted is because you can modify a value with the amount of the matrix, with the matrix knob. When you push it, you get out, and notice that now it's just out. So this means that now you can maybe go to a different point and select something else. Now then, if you want to select a different destination, you just need to move the controller, and it's just the same motion. You just select the destination and the source. maybe I'm going to be doing the LFO2 and then the cutoff. If you want to do something there, you just push. It's going to light up. And then right here, the center is light up. And then you can just change the value. Just to get out, you just push and then you get out. Notice that now you have 2 modulation slots. If you want to edit a slot, you just need to navigate to that specific point. And when you are there and just blinking, you push and it will, again, let you edit the values. And then you push to get out. Now, what if you want to maybe delete a mod source? So you have 2 ways of doing this. Let's say I want to go to the LFO2 and then the cutoff, this modulation. So I'm going to navigate all the way there and I push to edit the values. If you set it to 0, and I'm doing it right now, maybe you don't see it on camera, I'm setting it up to 0. Once I'm done, I'm going to confirm the changes. And notice that now it's blinking. If I get out, notice that it's not on anymore. So when the value is 0, the MINIFREAK will assume that you just don't have a destination. You're not doing anything. So it's just going to kind of remove that mod source. Another way of doing this is going to be just navigate to that spot. When you are there, you just need to push the matrix encoder for a second. 1, 2 Mississippi. And I'm going to release. And if I go out, it's just gone. So it's just doing the same, but just faster. It's just setting it to 0 and removing the mod point. Because if I go there and try to move something or just to do it again, the value of that one, it's just 0. So yeah, that's what it does. So if I go there again, push and hold for 2 Mississippis, just release, and it's gone. All right, so this is how you use whatever you have right here to the default 4 slots or 4 destinations that you have right here. Then you have the custom assigned ones. And notice at the top, it says page. And if I press this one, notice it will give you some information. I'm going to zoom the camera in a minute. But if I press this one, it will give you information about that one. And if I press this one, it will give you information about the assigned number 3. But also, these buttons, they control the pages. Okay, so you have 9 custom assignable slots. Right here, you only get access to 3, but behind the scenes, these buttons will take you to the pages. If I do shift and push the number 1, notice that maybe the screen, you can see it changes to a different thing. I'm standing on the page number 1, which is going to be the first 3 assigned buttons. If I go to page 2, it's going to be the second 3, and I'm doing all of this just holding the shift, of course. And on page 3, you have the last 3 assignable slots, which are going to be, a total of 9. And okay, so now the camera is just focusing on here. So maybe you can see it better. I'm going to shift and type and press the assign 1. Notice it's going to say page 1, and it says that you have 3 empty slots. So I'm standing on the page number 1. So now what we can do, we can just go to this assign, which is nothing. It's completely empty. And it's the assign 1 of page 1, assign 2 of page 1, and assign 3 of page 1. So how to assign something to the destination is just pretty easy. You just need to go to that assign. Make sure that you know on which page you are. I'm on 1. I'm going to press and hold, and I'm holding it. So now I'm going to be moving the cutoff, and that's it. So now this assign is gonna listen. The destination is gonna be the cutoff. If I go to the assign number 2, it's empty. But if I press and hold and I move the shape, now the destination is the shape of the 1. If I go to the assign number 3 and move something else, I'm gonna be doing, I don't know, resonance just to do something else. And now the assign 1 is gonna be cutoff. The 2 is gonna be a shape of 1, and then we have the resonance. And now everything else just works pretty much the same. I just need to go to assign 1. Maybe I'm going to go to LFO1 and say that the LFO is going to modulate the cutoff. And if I do some cutoff and I press it, notice that now we get that modulation. I'm going to get out. If I go and say that the LFO1, it's also going to modulate the shape, we're going to be getting that shape modulation, which is modulating this control. If I get out and I choose the LFO2 to modulate the resonance, it's going to modulate the resonance as well. And there we go. That's how it works. Right? So again, just pretty simple. What is it? We have the 3 slots right there. So what, of course, you need to remember is that this assigns, they belong to the page number 1. If I do shift and then assign, is going to let you know what you're using on that page. If I go to 2, the page number 2, they are empty. And if I release it, of course, we have no lights right here because we are loading the page number 1. I'm sorry, 2. If I go back to the number 1, we can see which modulations we are doing. So you need to, of course, remember all of this. Now, how to delete a modulation? It works again just like before. It's just the exact same thing. If I push and just hold for a couple of seconds, it's just going to remove the modulation that we just assigned. It will not remove the assign 1 or 2 and 3. If I go to this one, it's still the cutoff, still the shape, and it's still the resonance. I'm going to show you a minute more options that you have right here, but first I want to show you something else that's super important. Now on the mod matrix, you could choose a different destination point as a value, as a destination. So we could use maybe the LFO modulating to the cutoff and then controlled with a different the control or destination. I know it sounds a little bit weird. I'm going to show you how to do it. So right now I'm starting on a default patch. I have nothing on the assigns. So if I go there, notice that it's just completely empty. And the camera is right here, so I can show you the screen and I can show you what I do right here. The screen is just super small. It's not the best part of the synthesizer. It's just maybe way too small, but when you're using it live, it doesn't matter. But when you're filming it, it's way too small. So what you need to do in order to do a mod assignment, this is the technical name, mod assignment, you need to go to the assign and you need to hold it and then move the matrix. So I'm going to do it right now. I'm going to press the assign number 1 of the page number 1, and I'm going to move the matrix. So as I do so, the screen will let you know, and of course the lights, maybe you don't see it, they will let you know where you are, right? But the screen will let you know what you're trying to do. And now notice that this is a little bit different. We don't get cutoff or shape or volume. We get something else, which it says LFO arrow to something else. So this means that the LFO, the destination now is going to be the modulation. So let's say I want to do LFO 2, and I'm going to do it right now, LFO 1 to the cutoff, right? So this is what we are doing. If I release, now this assignment is going to be LFO 1 to cutoff. And if you remember, right here in the matrix, we have the LFO and then the cutoff. So it's going to be that point. Now, if I play a key, nothing really happens. If I do some cutoff and I play a key, nothing really happens. So what is the point of doing all of this? So since the assign now is a different mod slot, what I can do, I can use other sources to control or modulate that spot. Let me use this hand. I'm going to keep moving until I see the wheel and then modulate the assign. So I'm going to do wheel and then assign number 1. And I'm going to be pushing and I'm going to be doing, I don't know, something. I'm going to go maybe just super aggressive. I'm going to go all the way to 100. So now if I play it, nothing happens. But now the mod wheel is modulating the assign 1, which at the same time, the assign 1 is going to be LFO to cutoff. So with my mod wheel, I need to go to my mod wheel. I can control how much the LFO will affect the cutoff in a very simple fashion. And of course, right now I'm just going really aggressive. So, the modulation is super aggressive. Now, even if you have some kind of a value, maybe just a tiny little bit, I'm going to get out of here and go to the LFO 1 and cutoff, which is what we are trying to control. And I'm going to be doing just 0.2 or 0.1. So now the mod wheel, and I'm going to show you the screen because if you're using the application that you get for the MINIFREAK, everything is a little bit more visual and you have a visual representation right there. So I'm going to play a key and I'm going to use my mod wheel. When I go up, that is what is happening. We are scaling or just controlling how much of the LFO it's modulating the cutoff. So this is essentially what we are doing. I'm going to go to just a default patch, and I'm going to give you one of the most simple examples that you could imagine. I'm going to go to the matrix, and I'm going to say that the assign number 1 is going to be the LFO 1, and then the pitch 1 and 2. That's going to be my modulation. I'm going to go to the assign, and I'm going to keep moving until I see that I'm mapping assign 1 to LFO 1. And let me see if I can find it. Made a mistake right there. I'm going to see LFO 1 and then pitch. There we go. Almost there. Is LFO 1 and then the pitch. And I'm going to release it. So now, that assign, it's LFO 1 and pitch. We know. Now I'm going to go to the wheel. and control that assign number 1, which again, it controls how much of the LFO it's modulating the pitch. And I'm going to go again, super aggressive. So now my mod wheel is all the way down. If I play a key, nothing happens. If I go up, we get a mod wheel. We get a pitch vibrato. It's of course super aggressive. And I guess, that makes sense, but I can control with my mod wheel how much vibrato I get when I play. So of course it's super aggressive, but that's fine. So this is one of the very common thing that you get on a lot of synthesizers, using the mod wheel to do pitch vibrato. And you can do it, with this fashion. Just do an assign, then you map it to the LFO1 and then the modulation, and then you map it to the wheel. Now, before you use it to create your own patches, you need to know that you have on the MINIFREAK, you have a third LFO, which is going to be just for the vibrato. So I'm going to go to just, a default patch, just stand on the default patch. If I use my mod wheel, I get absolutely nothing. Now, if I move it, notice that all the lights are just, white. And I'm going to go to Shift, and I'm going to tap the mod wheel, the button, this pad. And notice that it turns blue. And the screen, it says something. So it's saying pitch vibrato on or off. So by default, you do have vibrato. So now, if I play it, notice I'm not using a mod slot. And you get that vibrato. And this is important because you can, set it up just by turning it on, and you get your pitch vibrato without occupying a modulation slot. Now you need to know that the vibrato, by default, it's locked to a single waveform, which is a triangle. You cannot choose different waveforms. So the other method of doing this, it's still useful, because with the LFOs, you can use different waveforms. So can you change something about the vibrato? Yes, you can. You need to go through the menu. I need to go to the sound edit, and of course you have a lot of options, and you need to go to the one that says oscillator. I'm gonna go there, and of course you have a lot of options. I'm gonna show you some of these options in a minute. I'm gonna go to the vibrato depth, and then you get the rate. So you can change how aggressive it is. By default is 1, which is fine. And then you have the rate, which is going to be, how fast. So I'm going to go all the way up on my mod wheel. Of course, you don't see it because it's off camera, but you can set the rate from here. I'm going to make it somehow fast. And then I'm going to go to the depth. Right now, it's all the way up. But if I go up, it's going to be just way more aggressive. And you can go down to small values. So this is how you configure your vibrato on the mod wheel. A couple of things that you need to know about the mod matrix is that when you assign something, you can of course set it to something, to shape. But if you move this control, you have more options that of course you don't have on the panel. For example, you can set a destination the unison spread if you're using unison, and then you have the cycling envelope M, the LFO 1M, and then LFO 2M, and then vibrato M. And I know it just sounds all the same, and it's because it's amplitude. So you can control how strong the LFO or the cycling envelope or the LFO 2 is when we create modulations, or we assign a modulation. I know it sounds confusing. I'm going to give you an example. You can also select the VCA, which is the volume, as a destination, and then again the rate of the vibrato. So let me just give you an example. Now my assign, and I'm gonna leave, and I'm gonna do assign number 1, because I just don't like to leave them empty. So I'm gonna go to LFO 1. So this is gonna be my destination for the assign number 1. Let me just go here and push it. So again, if I hold it, page 1, assign 1, LFO 1 amplitude. If I play something, nothing is gonna happen. I'm gonna do a little bit of cutoff so it's not so bright. And what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna use the mod matrix to, use the LFO to modulate something. And I'm gonna do something obvious, something that we can really hear. I'm gonna go to LFO 1 and do pitch 1 and 2. If I go all the way up, I'm gonna go really crazy so we can really hear the modulation. So yeah, it's just super aggressive. And I'm going to do more. I'm going to go to the LFO 1 and just modulate the cutoff as well. So now we get, you know, pitch modulation, and at the top we get the we modulate the cutoff. And we can do even more. I'm going to go to the timbre. Why not? I'm going to go there and just modulate the timbre as well. It just doesn't matter. We are modulating 3 different things. So now remember that the assigned number 1 was the LFO 1 amount, or AM for amplitude. I don't really know. Could be amount or amplitude. So right now what I could do is control that destination or the LFO amount or amplitude with something. And you can use whatever you want. I'm going to be using the mod wheel because I can control it with my mod wheel. I'm going to go here and I'm going to go to 100%. And I'm just going to set it as a destination. So now, if I play something, notice that we get nothing. We get absolutely nothing. And it's because we are controlling the amplitude of the LFO with the mod wheel. If I go up on the mod wheel, it will make, you know, the LFO more aggressive or just less aggressive. And this is a great thing to have, because you could have a LFO 1 mapped to a lot of different things, or other sources mapped to different things, and then you can control it with something else. I could even maybe control the LFO 1 with the LFO 2 and, you know, get really interesting modulations. Right? So again, that's the whole point. And just like we discussed previously, if you move it, hold the assign, you can do the same for the cycling envelope, the other LFO, the VCA, and the vibrato, right? So this is how the mod matrix works. We still need to cover a couple more things, but this is how it works, right? You just set a source, a destination, and if that's not enough for you, you set up a custom destination. And if you want to control all the things, then you, of course, you use your other capabilities. So at first, it's a little bit weird when you use it, you know, just because it's one single knob and then you have a tiny little screen. But once you get used to it and you do it over and over, dominating the matrix is just a walk in the park. Now, if you're using it through USB and you have access to the Mini V application, the matrix is pretty visual. You have all the slots right there. And I'm going to do it right now. The only thing that you need to do with your mouse is just, you know, pick a destination and just, you know, move how much you want to do. And then, of course, the synthesizer will listen to whatever it is that you're doing. You could even go here and change, select something else, right, as a destination. We already talked about this. And you can even click and select different locations. So, yeah, the application is pretty complete. It's missing a couple of things, but, you know, it just makes it super easy. All right, so what about velocity and aftertouch? To access the settings of the keyboard, it's a little bit different. If we go to Sound Edit, what we are doing pretty much here on Sound Edit is entering to alter or just modify some values that belong to the patch that we are creating, right? So the current sound. But then at the bottom, notice it says utility. And the utility, it's for, you know, the whole synthesizer. So I'm going to go to Shift. I'm holding it right now. And if I press the Sound Edit, it will give you the utility, which is the access to, you know, pretty much everything else. So right here, I'm going to go at the top, and at the bottom, if you keep scrolling and scrolling, you're going to see something that says controls. If I go to controls, it will give you the velocity curve, the aftertouch curve. You can change that one. You can change the knob catch, which is going to be how this will react. If you have a patch and you have a value and you move the knob, how it will react to that. And let me go back again to the utility. And then you have the sustain, you know, for the sustain pedal. And then you have something that says the aftertouch sensitivity, the start and the end sensitivity. So if the aftertouch is not working for you or how it comes from factory, you can modify it from here. And then you have touch button sensitivity, which is going to be the touch buttons that you see right here. Now, when you change some of these options, this will apply for the whole synthesizer and all the patches that you create or you are playing back, because this is about the synth, not about a sound. Within the same universe, the velocity and aftertouch, I'm going to go to Sound Edit this time. It's Sound Edit, not Utility. And if you go there, you have an option that says Keyboard. So this keyboard option is for the current sound or the current patch that you are working with. And this will give you a couple of options like the keyboard SRC, which is going to be, how the keyboard, again, will react. In this case, it's going to be linear, random, or the voices. But, I don't want to show you this right now. What I want to show you, you have the band range of the band wheel. What I want to show you is this one. And it says Matrix, SRC, Velo, and then AT. And I'm showing you this right now because it's related to the matrix. We just talked about it, and this is very, very related. When you enter to that one, by default, it's going to be velocity aftertouch. But you have more options. You have velocity, then you have just velocity or just aftertouch, and then velocity and aftertouch at the same time. Why is this related? Right here, it says Velo and AT. So is a modulation source, is a source. So maybe you want to use just velocity to modulate something, and right here you need to go to the menu and say, okay, I just want to use velocity. Or maybe you just want to use aftertouch and not velocity. You go here to the configs and you just set it to aftertouch. And if you want to use aftertouch and velocity at the same time, you just choose velocity and aftertouch. And whatever is that you do right here, or whatever modulation that you do, and I'm gonna do it right now. I'm gonna go to Velo and AT, and I'm gonna do cutoff. I want to modulate the cutoff. So now, what is it? It's changing how the cutoff sounds. And right now, it's using, if we go back to that option. So right now, if I use aftertouch, notice that it's working. And if I use velocity, it's also working. But maybe I don't want to do this. I just want the aftertouch. So now if I press soft or hard, it doesn't matter. I really need to do aftertouch. And this is a very important option because it will change how the source works. And if you ask me, I don't like for the velocity to, to modulate something, but I do aftertouch the whole time. So I always come here and select aftertouch instead of velocity and aftertouch. But that's just me. Now it's time to talk about the cycling envelope. This one can work as a standard envelope. But first, before we can use it, we need to map it to something. And since we know how the matrix works, I'm going to go to the cycling envelope, which is the first row, and I'm going to map it to the cutoff. I'm going to go there. I'm just going to go here and do around maybe 70 or 70. It's going to be fine. So, okay, so the cycling envelope is going to be modulating the cutoff around 70. So it's this one. So I'm going to go all the way down on the cutoff. Now, if I play it, notice that we do get something, even if we are all the way down on the cutoff. Now, on your cycling envelope, you have the three modes. First, we're going to talk about the envelope, which it works, again, just like a normal envelope. If I play a key, it's going to go up and then down. The rise is going to decide how slow, which is almost like the attack. If I play a key, it's going to be slow, going up. And then the fall is going to be like the decay. How is going to decay? And then if we want some sustain, we go up in the sustain. And maybe I'm going to go up on the release of the synthesizer. If I play a key, maybe you're wondering, okay, so do we have a release on the cycling envelope? Yes, we do. It's going to be the fall. So the whatever you have on the fall is going to be the same for the release. And then on the right here on the drawing, it shows pretty much, a normal envelope. So again, you can use the cycling envelope as a normal envelope and disregard the emp envelope to modulate the cutoff. And alright, all of this is just very simple, right? It's just, again, like a normal envelope. The other options, the run and the loop, are very interesting. And they are very different. I'm going to go to the run. And notice that as soon as you do so, it's going to change how it works. So now, the envelope, it works almost like an LFO. And when I play a key, whatever is that we have right here as an instruction is going to modulate the envelope. And remember, we have a rise, we have a fall, and then we have a sustain stage. If I go all the way down in the sustain stage, it's going to do something like that. Now notice when I move the rise and I move the fall, it's also changing the rate of the modulation. Even if I make it super fast and then I add a little bit of sustain, it's going to change how the modulation works. So you need to be aware of this. Now we have more options I'm going to show you in a minute. But when you use it like this, whatever it is that you do here will affect how the modulation, how the cutoff in this case gets modulated. Alright, so this is, again, the run. And it's called run because it works like an oscillator, for example, that will always run. It will not re-trigger. And this is the main difference with loop, because if I do something like this and move it, and then I go to loop, notice it's doing pretty much the same thing. If I go to loop to run and hold the key, and now I'm gonna go to loop and play it again, it's pretty much the same. So if run and loop are pretty much the same, why do we get them? So run, again, like I said before, is how it re-triggers. If I play a key, it will start, moving, modulating the cutoff, but it's not re-triggering. It always starts from whatever it is. It's not listening to my keys, to my keyboard when I play it. So if I play a key, that's the first thing, right? It doesn't care when I play a key. It's constantly moving. That's why it's called run. The loop is a little bit different. First of all, it's going to re-trigger every time I play a new key. It will always start from the beginning. That's the main difference, how it re-triggers. Then the other difference is that run by default, and it's just by default and it's how it works, is going to be mono. So if I play a key, and I play a new one, and I play another one, and I keep adding keys, notice that the cutoff will always move the same for all the different voices. But then loop, it's by default polyphonic. So if I play a key, and I play new keys, they all will do their own thing. This is why we get this, this sound. So that's, again, those are the main differences. Loop, it's polyphonic and can be other things. We can talk about this in a minute. And run will always run, and it's mono. And then loop it will re-trigger when you play a key. Now, still, all of this can be changed from within the sound edit. If I go to the sound edit and then I navigate where it says cycling envelope, notice that you have a bunch of options. You have the re-trigger source, the tempo sync, and then the stage order. So first I'm going to go to re-trigger source. Now this option, this re-trigger source, it's for the envelope, for this one, and for the loop. It doesn't care about the run. So right now we know that the loop, it's polyphonic, and it's the default value, the default re-trigger. But if I change it and make it mono, now it works like the run. I'm playing a lot of keys, and it's just all the voices are just, moving the same way. And it's because now the re-trigger source is mono, just like the run. Now, we have other options. We have legato, which means if I'm playing and holding a key, it will only re-trigger when I'm not holding a key. And of course, I'm not showing you the keyboard right now, but it will only re-trigger when I play a new key and I'm not holding a different key. Now, again, it works just like legato mode. And then you have other options which are really cool. You have the LFO, and this means that the cycling envelope will sync to the rate of the LFO, and it will follow the LFO 1 or the 2 rate to, re-trigger. Now, remember that these options, and I'm going to go to the default one, which is poly for this one. These options are for the loop and the envelope. The run doesn't care about the re-trigger. Now, then you have other interesting things right here. You have the stage order. If I go here, it's going to give you different profiles. First is RHF, which if you think about this is going to be rise, then hold, and then fall. And then you have other profiles. So if I go here and select that one, which is again the default, when I just play a key, and I guess I'm gonna go to run. If I move this first, it's gonna be the rise, right? If I move this one, that's gonna be the fall. But then, if I move this one, I have the hold. So first comes the rise right here on the waveform. Then comes the hold, is the second one, the second order, and then the third order is going to be the fall. Right? So that's how it works. But we can change this if we go again to the sound edit. Made a mistake right there. I'm going to go to here and then go to stage order is rise, hold, and fall. We can change it to rise, fall, and hold. If I go there, now it's going to be a little bit different. I guess I changed it correctly. No, it didn't. So if I go there, now it's going to be different. First, it's going to be the rise. Then it's going to be the fall. And notice the hold, it's after the fold, the fall. So of course, the modulation will change because, the hold just making everything work a little bit different. Now, let me put it like that. And I'm going to go hold all the way down. Notice it's super fast. I'm going to go here and just make it a little bit slower. If I move this, it's going to get slower and slower and slower. But now the hold again, it's at the end of at the end of the fall, after the fall. And then we have the other option, which is going to be, let me go there, is going to be the hold, rise, and fall. If I go there, now it's the same, but the hold is going to be right at the beginning and not at the end. Right? So again, all of this will change how the modulation works. Now I'm going to go back to the default one, which is going to be RHF. And then you have a different thing, which is going to be the tempo sync. So right now it's going to be off. So whenever you move this, notice you have values. So, if I do something like that, we just needs to hear, we just don't really know if we are syncing to something or not. So if I go to on and turn it on, when we move the rise, we know how we are syncing. And it's going to tell us right there at the bottom. So, you can use this option to sync it a little bit better. Or just, to be a little bit more precise. Alright. Alright, so that's going to be the cycling envelope. And it looks like, something very simple, but it's actually something super complex. And you even have more options that I didn't show you. Notice that right here, it says shape for the rise and the fall. Now I'm gonna adjust this, and if I play it, we get that, that type of modulation. I'm gonna hold the shift, and I'm holding the shift right now. When I move it, it's gonna change the curve of the rise in this case. And it works just like, the ADSR we discussed previously. It's gonna make it percussive, it's gonna make it quick or linear. Now, this is on the envelope. When we are on the run or the loop, it will change it on a little bit differently. I'm going to go sustain all the way down. If I press and hold the shift, now this will change the curve. It will make it, exponential or logarithmic, right? So it's a really different type of modulation. I'm going to make it, let me just turn off the tempo sync. And get out of there. And I'm going to do something like that. I'm going to hold the key, do shift, and I'm going to change the curve. Notice this just changing it. The instruction or the modulation really changes. Now, can you do the same for the loop? Yeah, you hold the shift and you change the curve of the rise, and then you can change the curve of the fall. So yeah, that's the main difference. Run and loop, you get a little bit more control, but then in the envelope, you just get two different profiles. And alright, so now it's time to talk about the LFOs. You have two different LFOs, and the LFOs are really simple, but at the same time, they can be really complex. And within the LFOs, you have something called the LFO shaper. I will only give you an introduction to it, and I will upload a dedicated video just to show you how you can create your own waveforms with the LFO shaper. Let's go through the basics. First, we need to map the LFO to something. I'm gonna move the cutoff, just, cut a lot of frequencies so I can go to the matrix. And you know what? I'm gonna do it with the application. I'm gonna go to LFO 1 and use the cutoff, just modulate the cutoff around 70. So you can see it right there on the screen. With the LFO, it's just, again, pretty simple. This one is gonna control the rate. If I go up, it's gonna go faster. And if I go down, it's gonna go slower. I guess you already, you can figure this out on your own. Now, what if you want to sync? Notice it says sync right there. So if I push it, it's gonna change to sync. So now it's gonna sync to whatever tempo you have on your synthesizer. And notice that at first you get stride, then if I keep moving forward, you get dotted, and then you get triplets, and so on, and so on, and so on. And I'm telling you this because there is a way to change this, and I'm going to tell you in a minute. If you push it, it's going to turn it off and go into free mode. I'm going to go a little bit slower, somewhere around that. And then, of course, you have your different waveforms. If I all the way down into sine wave, then we get a triangle, then we get a saw, and then we get a square. The most common waveforms you could get. And now, then you start getting the weird ones. This is like, you know, a sample and hold, which is gonna be like a random. So then if I keep going, moving forward, it's the sample and hold. But notice it's a little bit smoother. And just because it's gonna, you know, it's just a little bit smoother than the sample and hold, but it's still random. If I keep moving forward, you have the exp saw, which is a saw, but it's not bipolar, it's unipolar. I'm gonna show you that in a minute. And then you have a ramp, which is the opposite of the saw, and again, this one is unipolar. And then if you go all the way to the end, it's gonna say wave shaper. And right here is where you load your own custom waveforms. Now before that, now again, I'm going to show you this on a different video, but if you do shift and you move, notice it says load right here. I'm holding the shift. I'm going to be moving this control, and notice it gives you different waveforms. So by default from factory, you get 16 different waveforms, and you can, you know, use it as a modulation, you know, as a modulation instruction. Again, you get 16. There you go. I'm a little bit far from the shift. So if I move this, you know, you get a lot. And at some point, if you keep scrolling, and let me just do it like that, keep scrolling, you're gonna go into the user shaper. And this is where you can create your own custom waveforms, and you only have 8 different slots. So you can create 8 different waveforms. You don't have more, you just have 8. And if you're asking or wondering yourself, can we delete the factory waveforms? No, you cannot. You only have 8. And like I said before, I'm going to expand on the LFO shaper on a different video. I'm going to go all the way to the sine wave, and notice I'm going to show you this screen right now. This is the app. And I'm going to go slower so we can see it. Notice that the modulation goes into positives and then it goes into negatives. And it's because all the waveforms that you have right here are going to be bipolar by default. Can you change them? No, I couldn't find any way to make the waveforms unipolar or just or maybe change it to bipolar. You cannot. By default, they are all bipolar, which means that they go to positives and negatives. But if you keep scrolling down, the main difference is that this one, the exp saw, is only unipolar. Notice that it's only moving from the starting point and then up, and the other ones are going up and down. That's the main difference. So this one is uni, and this one is uni, and that's it, pretty much. But then, you know, this is why you get the wave shaper. When you create a custom waveform, you can make them uni or bipolar. It's completely up to you. Okay, so all the way back to a sine wave, we have some very interesting options. I'm going to go to the sound edit, and I'm going to go to the one that says LFO right here, LFO. And you have the retrigger of the LFO 1 and then the 2. And if you keep scrolling down, it's going to say sync filter, and then LFO sync filter and shaper rate, and all of this is about the shaper. So I'm going to go to the one, we are using the 1, but it's the same for the 2. I'm going to go to the 1 and just enter to the one that says sync and then filter. I'm going to go there. And notice it says all. So by default, when we have all, if I move the rate, it's going to go, if I sync it, of course, it's going to be dotted, then triplets, then straight, then dotted, and then so on. But we are getting all. So that's the main point. If I go here and change it to triplet, for example, or you can go just to straight, I'm going to go to straight. When I move this knob, it will not give us the dotted or the triplets. So if we want to modulate this, it's going to be a smoother transition because you're not going through the triplets and dotteds. That's the plan. If I go here again and make it triplets, it's the same idea. I'm going to move this and it will only go through the triplets, and so on and on and on. And this is again a cool, very tiny little feature that really helps when you're just sound designing. Now within the same menu, you have the LFO 1 retrigger and the LFO 2 retrigger. And this is just like the cycling envelope. Remember, we already talked about this. With the cycling envelope at least. So the oscillator can be free, which means that when we play it, it doesn't care when we play it. It will always restart whenever it wants. right now is just super slow. I'm gonna make it a little bit faster, unsync it, and make it a little bit faster. Right, so that's the free. What happens with the poly? Well, poly, it's just like the cycling envelope. If I play many keys, each voice will do its own version of the LFO. Again, we covered this on the cycling envelope. Then mono, it means that all the voices will follow the same instruction. That's why we hear them re-trigger when I play a new key, right? It will always start from the beginning. All right, so I'm gonna go to the next one. It's the legato. Remember, you need to play or hold a key. I'm holding a key right now, and if I play a new one, that is not re-triggering. It's because, of course, I'm holding a key, but if I don't hold the key, it will always restart or re-trigger in this case. And then you have one, and this one is very useful, and it's something that you don't have on the cycling envelope. One means that it will trigger the LFO one time. So if I play it in 3, 2, 1, there you go. It's just doing one single shot. It will do one cycle of the waveform. That's it. And this is actually really cool when you use one of the one of the waveforms that you get right here. Let me just get something a little bit more complex. I guess that was fine. So if I play it, is going to play and hold, is going to run it just one time, is a pretty long waveform, and then it's going to die, but I'm still holding the key. That's one shot. And it's, again, this is something super cool that you get on this synthesizer that you don't get on a lot of synthesizers. What else? I'm going to go here, and then you have the retrigger is going to follow the LFO2 to retrigger, or it's going to follow the cycling envelope to retrigger. And again, this is just like the cycling envelope when it's syncing to the LFO1 and 2 to retrigger. And then you have sequence start. This one will, it means that the LFO will retrigger when the first step of the sequence plays back. When the first step starts, then the LFO will retrigger at that time. Yeah, you have a lot of options. I guess by default was the free, I guess. I don't remember right now. Just gonna set it to free. If you go to the 2, maybe I get it. Yeah, it's gonna be the free. Now then you have the shaper options, but I'm gonna show you how to create your own waveforms and really use the shaper on a different video. It's not super long to do it, but it's gonna take a few minutes. And this guide, it's way too long already. So I much prefer to create a dedicated video for that. And I guess I'm gonna be uploading it in just a couple of days. Okay, so macros. How great it is to have macros on a synthesizer. So right here, you have 2 macros, and right here you have the 3 buttons. This one, you use this for the sequencer and the ARP. When you go to the first one, this one is the bend and then the mod wheel. But when you go to here, you have 2 macros, U1, and then you have 2. So just to show you how this works, I'm going to do a little bit of cutoff, actually a lot of cutoff. I'm going to go up on the resonance, and I'm going to do full envelope amount. And right here on the envelope, I'm going to be doing something super plucky, something super fast. Let me go all the way down on sustain, all the way down on release. And again, I want something plucky. There we go. Now what I want to do, I want to modify the ADSR with the macros. So right now it's plucky, but when I move the macros, I want to scale the decay and whatever we have right here on the ADSR and make it longer so it can sound way too different. That's the main idea with the macros. We can take one sound and just make it sound completely different. To assign something to a macro, you need to be on macros, but the trick is that you need to do shift. Because if you press and hold, the screen is gonna let you know something. It's gonna say shift plus macros to add a destination. So I'm gonna leave it around there. So if I do shift and I press the macros, notice that they turn from blue to white. And it's because when we are on white, they are in assign mode. We can assign destinations to the macros. Since you have 2, you need to select either the 1 or the 2 to add destinations. Now the camera is not picking it up because of the lighting, but this one, the number 1, when you touch it, it's blinking. If I touch the number 2, this one is steady and this one is blinking. Again, maybe you see it on my finger right here, the lighting, it's blinking. So in this case, I just don't want to use this one. I just want to use the first one. I want to add destinations to the macros number 1. And again, these ones are blinking. So this one is on assign mode. And now what we need to do is to move the knobs we want to add as a destination. So I want to go to the decay, the sustain, and the release. So when I move this, it will let you know on the screen what you're moving and how the amount of how much you're doing it. And I want to scale the decay, and I want to scale the sustain, go up on the sustain, and I want to go up on the release. So I want to go from a plucky type of sound to something, completely different. And I'm going to show you the screen in a minute because we can do more actions with the button right here. But once you're done editing, or adding your destinations, to get out of the assign mode, you just need to press the macros and they will turn blue again. And now, if I go almost all the way down, I just have my default preset. But if I go up, now we have something completely different, right? And that's, the main point of using macros. You take one sound, and then when you go up, you just turn it into something completely different. Or maybe you can assign to your effects and have a completely dry patch, but when you go up on the macro, they are completely wet with the delay and reverb and so on and so on and on. I'm going to do a shift, and I'm going to go back to assign mode, and I'm going to touch the first one. And again, if you touch the second one, it's completely empty, but I'm going to go to the one where we do have some values. When you go to assign mode, you can edit whatever it is that you're doing right here. Because, when you add them for the first time, sometimes the values are a little bit limited. So you can, with this encoder, just navigate through your different destinations. And when you push it, you can go all the way up to 100, or you can go even into negatives. Right? So you can edit as much as you want right here. Now, what if you want to delete one of these, destinations? You can. You need to push and press and hold, and it's going to delete that destination. And there you go. It's just that simple. Once I delete it, you have nothing on that macro. Now, remember when we were working with the mod matrix, we have other options or destinations that are not available as knobs. So right here, when you push edit, when you are in, assignment mode for a macro, when you push it, you get those options right here. So you can use them. And right here, of course, you get empty. So if I move cutoff, for example, and I go to an empty slot, when you push it, you're going to get these options. Maybe I can do unison spread, or whatever it is that you want to do. Just like we did before with the assigns, where we add a mod slot to the assigned. Can we do it to the macros? Yeah, we can. When we are on assign mode, and as I'm on assign mode on this on the first macro, if I move a destination and I'm going to choose, let's say LFO to the pitch, why not? I'm going to choose that one. Notice it's adding it right here. Notice it says L1 and then to pitch. So I'm going to go all the way up, right? So in theory, I'm modulating the LFO1 and the pitch, right? Once we are done, and I'm assigning this, and I'm going all the way to 100%, so it's gonna be really aggressive. I'm gonna get out of the assign mode, and I'm gonna go macro all the way down. If I play a key, and I'm gonna make it longer, notice that we just don't get it. But if I go up, we start getting the LFO, which is, what we did right here. We are controlling that LFO with the macro, which is, if you think about this, it's the same thing we did with the Aftertouch when we were talking about the mod matrix. So yeah, you can do things like this. Another thing that you need to know is that when you store a preset, the mod will always start from the bottom, all the way from 0. But the macros are different, and I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna go to the preset, and I know that you have this preset from factory. If you didn't delete it, of course, if you go to 214, for example, this preset, of course, has a sequence, but also notice that it remembers the macro values. If I go to the mod wheel is always all the way down, but the macros remember when you save the preset. This preset, by default, the macro should be all the way up, and this one, halfway there. But if I move this, notice the sound changes. if I keep loading other presets, notice that most presets, especially, you know, the ones that evolve, they're using the macros. So again, this is something that you must use on the synthesizer. Okay, so I want to show you a couple more things before we can call it a day on this video, because it's just already way too long. I want to talk about something called the mod Quantize. And from now on, I will assume that you know how the macros, the LFO, and everything we already talked works. I'm working with the default patch. What I'm going to do, I'm going to go to the matrix, and you know what? I'm going to do it from the application. I'm going to use the mod wheel, and I want to go up in pitch. I'm going to go to the wheel, and I'm going to go up around. You know what? I'm going to go all the way up. So if I play a key, nothing happens. But if I go to the mod wheel and go up, I'm going up in pitch and down in pitch. If I go to the sound edit and then go all the way to oscillators, you have something that says oscillator 1 mod quant and oscillator 2 mod quant. I'm going to use the 1 for now. I'm not using the 2. And you know what? I'm going to go to the 2, oscillator 2, and make sure that the volume is all the way down. Let me go back. I'm going to go oscillator 1 mod quantize. So by default, it's continuous, which is fine. It means that when I play a key, and I'm playing it right now, if I go up on my mod wheel, it's going to go up in pitch. But notice that the transition is super smooth, right? It's not stepped. It's super smooth. So this is this option. If I go to the next one, it's going to be chromatic. I'm going to play it. And notice it's a little bit different. It's going up in semitones, and it's not gliding in pitch when I go up. And it's like, you know, the glide, you can do glide, or you can do glissando. Well, it's something, you know, pretty similar, but you have other options, and these ones are really cool. You have octaves, which means that when you modulate the pitch of the oscillator, you can only go up and down in octaves, right? And this is, again, just a weird feature. You don't have this on a lot of synthesizers. You can do in fifths, and I'm going up and down on the mod wheel. And if I go to the next one, you have even more options. You have minor, major, Phrygian, and the list keeps going on and on and on. So yeah, this is actually, you know, super fun. I'm gonna go and lock it to a minor, right? So if I play it, it's gonna go up and down. Now I'm gonna use the LFO instead of using the mod wheels. It's just gonna be a little bit more fun. I'm gonna delete the mod wheel assignment, and I'm gonna go to LFO 1 and modulate the pitch. And I'm gonna go all the way up. I'm gonna make it super aggressive, all the way up. So now, if I play a key, this is a little bit different. Maybe the LFO is just way too fast. I'm gonna make it slower. And notice it's just using the minor. But if I go to sound edit, go to the mod quantize, maybe I can just use fifths. And now it can only go up and down in pitch through fifths. And again, you have the octaves, or you have the other options. Right, so this is an extra function that it will not change your life, but it's just, sort of a fun, tiny little thing that you get on this synthesizer. And okay, you have a button that says chord and one that says scales. And this is pretty simple. If you want to use the scales, you want to change how the keyboard works, you need to go to Shift, and then you need to go to scales. When you're there, you can have an option to select the root of the scale, and I guess this is pretty obvious. I'm going to keep it on C, but then it means that you can select a scale. You can go to global, which is already, global. You can go to off if you want to, but just global is the same thing. Now I'm going to go to a different scale. You have a lot of different scales, and you can even set your own. So I'm going to be setting this to, maybe a minor scale. And I'm going to select it. So now my scale is minor, right? And again, remember, you can't change the root right here. Now, the whole point of this is that now you can play the keyboards and it will be locked. The keys will be locked to a C minor scale. So if I play different keys, it will always be that scale. And even if you play a wrong note, it will just repeat the previous one. But this is just the same pitch. So what if you don't want to use one of the scales that you get here? So when you go to scale and you scroll all the way to the end, you have the user scale. So when you press a key, you're going to be getting this image. And it means that right now, if all the keys are white, it means that you're using a chromatic scale. So, it's just a chromatic scale. So you need to press the keys that you want to remove from the scale. I'm going to be pressing the black ones, so I'm only going to use the white ones. Now you need to push to confirm, and now you're using your user scale. So when I play the keys, notice I'm not getting the black ones. It will only be the white ones. Now, if you're not on the screen, notice that this button, by default, when you're using just a different scale, or just a scale that it's not the normal keyboard, even if it's global, you're going to be locked to a scale, and this goes light blue, and go all the way to off, and then push to confirm. Make sure that this on off, and when you get out, notice that this one it's not on anymore, and you are back to the normal keyboard. Now, the other thing that you get is going to be the chords, and you enable a chord when you just press the button, and this one is not going to be light blue, it's just going to be white. And I'm going to chop a little bit of frequencies. So now when I play a key, it's going to be playing a chord. And by default, it's going to be the last chord that you recorded. How can you record a chord? So the only thing you need to do is you need to push the chord, just hold it, and when you're holding it, you just need to play your chord, and it will remember this. You can use the hold feature that just works without using the chord. If I'm pressing hold, I'm going to play a key, and it's just going to sustain it or hold it for me. Now, why do we care if we are talking about chords? So if you are recording a chord, you can enable the sustain or the hold, and I'm going to be recording, and I don't need to, press make the chord with just one hand. It's going to record whatever is that we added. Maybe I did a little bit more because we only have 6. Now, if I get out of that mode, it will remember what I recorded. Okay, we are pretty much done. Well, that last thing we need to discuss on this one is going to be the effects. Now, the effects section is pretty simple. I'm just going to give you an introduction. Now, you can only use 3 different effects. You cannot do more. You only have 3. And by default, they are all off on a default patch. Now, when you move the type, and I'm showing you the application right now, but you can select a different, different effects. Of course, on the screen of the synthesizer, you do get the name of the effects that you're trying to select. And that's it. This is how you select the type. If you push this one, notice it says on. So now, of course, this one is going to turn on the effects. And if you want to move on to the next one by pushing it, you're going to be turning it on as well. And I guess I'm going to be doing a reverb or, just something like that. And to turn it off, you need to push it. And notice that if I keep toggling through the other effects, the one that is on is going to be on. So if I go to the second one and turn it on, and I go to the third one and turn it on, they are all on. So, I'm going to go here, turn it off, and go to the number 1. Just like the oscillators, all the different effects, they have different properties, right? So a chorus will have a rate, a depth, and a dry and the wet. And most of the effects, let me just show you the other ones, are gonna give you, some kind of property. But most of them is going to be dry and the wet. Now, if I keep moving to the other effects, some of them are going to give you, different options. In the case of the EQ, is low, mid, and high. You don't have a dry and wet. If I keep moving forward, let me just find it. A delay has a level, and it's a little bit different than a dry and wet. And it's because the delay and the reverb, they can be used as cents. So we can change how they work. I'm gonna show you in a minute. But first, I'm gonna go all the way down to the curse. Now, each different type of effects has a sub. So this is a preset. So if I play this, it's going to sound like this. Now, if I do shift and keep changing the sub, notice it will give us presets, right? And most of the effects, they have presets. and they really sound different, and you actually need to use them. Let me just use it with the mouse right now. So in the case of this, again, it gives you different options, and again, all of them are really different because you only have 3 different knobs. Actually 2. The last one is the dry and wet. So you only have 2 options in this case. So the presets, they will, give you a different type of sound. Very different. And all of the effects are just, just like this. Like I said before, a delay and a reverb, they can work as an insert. And this is what you get by default when you load an initial patch. If I go to the effects number 3, it's going to be a reverb and it's going to be a scent. And if I go to the 2, usually it's going to be a delay. In this case, it's not, but it's going to be scent. So both are going to be scents. What is the difference between a scent and insert? So an insert is like chaining pedals. So if you have a delay, whatever the delay is going to produce is going to feed to the next effect, and so on, and so on, and so on. A scent is a little bit different. You're going to be sending an amount, a level to an effects. And if you think about this, it's like, a DAW. When you have a channel, or for example, if you're working Ableton or Bitwig or whatever it is that you use, you always have an effects scent. Well, it's pretty much the same thing. If you go to the sound edit, notice that right here it says effects, and notice it says delay, routing, and reverb routing. And right here is where you can change how the delay or the reverb is going to work. You can make it an insert, and I'm going to do so. And then if you want the reverb to be an insert, by default they are scents. They are always scents. So now if I turn on all the different effects and I play something, all the delay and the reverb are inserts. So the chorus is flowing into the delay is flowing into the reverb. And notice it sounds like that. What happens if I go right here, and I'm going to do it on the application because it's faster, I'm going to use scents. Notice way different. It's much cleaner. And there's no right or wrong right here. Sometimes using it as an insert is going to make it's going to give you a more dense type of sound. But if you want a little bit more control and to, have a cleaner type of, effects, maybe you want to use a scent. Okay, we are done on this one, and I know it was a lot, and it's because this synthesizer, it's super, super complete. If I have to give you my opinion, this and the Hydrosynth, the Explorer, talking about the same price range, it's the best option you have on the market right now. It's this or either the Hydrosynth. And alright, so that's it. This is most of the synthesizer. Remember, I will upload some other videos showing the LFO shaper, the oscillators one by one, the ARP and the sequencer, and a few more. If you liked all of this and you learned something new, please like and subscribe. This channel is supported by viewers only. If you want to buy me a coffee to say thanks and help the channel keep going on, you can. You have links at the description for PayPal, YouTube thanks, and Patreon.